Thank you very much. I'm with you for about half an hour. And what I want to talk to you about today is a bit about your mindset when you're approaching business. I work with a lot of small businesses and sort of medium enterprises who go into the digital space. And one of their biggest concerns is actually how do they compete with national brands and large enterprises when so much of it comes down to budget? What I'm going to talk to you about today is a sort of mindset and a sort of framework that helps you shift away from that, gives you a sort of an abundance mentality to the market that's out there, and starts to carve how you can make a sort of bigger splash in the pond of your market. There's two key advantages to being an SME, and the first one of them is that you can move with agility, much more than any large enterprise can. It sounds common sense, but not a lot of people actually realise it. When a large corporation has to make any decisions, it's got to go through sort of multiple layers of bureaucracy before they actually get to rolling out whatever it is they want to do. So they're sort of cumbersome, they're slow to react, and a lot of the time they've got to jump through hoops that SMEs just don't have. And the second thing is they become beholden to shareholders. And that means that even though they might be doing something fantastically, once they start to grow, they need more chunks of other markets. So they start to sort of position themselves horizontally and enter new markets, which isn't their sort of core product offering. So as an SME, you're free to actually stay in that one spot of specialism and do what you do really, really well. Now, the struggle is that people start chasing things. So business isn't going well one month. So you start chasing bits of money here and there. But I want to start you thinking about these 3 Fs. So we're talking about fast, focused, and fearless. 3 simple terms that just help you embrace this mentality. It's all about remembering what do you have in your toolkit that teams within a large corporation aren't going to be able to simulate. The first thing we've spoken about is fast. You can use speed as a competitive edge. Focused, you choose depth over breadth. And the last one is fearless. So you can be bold and decisive with decisions because you're not going to be told off by your regional operations manager, sort of looking over your shoulder. Let's go into them in a little bit more detail. So starting with fast, right? The first thing you can do is you're out there doing the work. So any content you create for the digital space can be done very, very quickly and very, very easily. I've run into a problem a lot where business owners and leaders, they have so much to say. Anyone that's ever met with another business owner will know that. But they struggle with actually taking the time to get the content and turning it into something they can share and talk about in a digital space. So what happens is you end up taking a photo of your great work or talking to a client. You take the photo, you've got it on your phone, you go to upload it to LinkedIn, you go, I haven't got anything to say with this, I'll leave it. And then it just gets parked for weeks and weeks or not used at all. What I want to encourage all of you to do, you're in a great space to do it today, is just get that photo. And when you get back to the office tomorrow or you're sitting at your desk next, try this method. So sit down with something like ChatGPT and use a prompt like this. It's very simple. And at the end, I'm going to give you a QR code where you can actually get the prompt. All it does is takes your image and gives you a caption to go with it that's hyper relevant to what you're trying to do. You can copy and paste this, use it as many times as you want, but all it does is use your brand name, your sector, the tone of voice you're going for to create something that's properly engaging, and it takes about 15 seconds. So by the time you've actually copy and pasted this into ChatGPT, can I just get a show of hands if you use ChatGPT? Brilliant, that's really good. If you didn't put your hand up then, there's probably about 10 other speakers today that will tell you about ChatGPT. So at the end, like I said, I'll give you a QR code. You can access and copy and paste this. But it's a fantastic way just to get you kick-started, build that momentum. And what it means is that you don't have to rely on having to think about that content in the first place. Just get your day-to-day work sort of recorded through photos and videos. The second part of fast is that your delivery is flexible. Let's take a really easy example. McDonald's, all right? You go into McDonald's, you know the process you're going to go through. You're going to order, you're going to be given a tray, you're going to be told the ice cream machine isn't working, and then you're going to go and get the food. Very sort of symbolic process across the entire country, no matter where you go to. Now, if you're just working in Sussex, or even smaller, if you're just working in your local community, you don't have that barrier to provide a service that's repeatable. Every single interaction you have with a customer can be flexible. There's two ways that can be used. The first is that you can give the customer a hyper-personalized experience. So let's say I'm an electrician, right? I turn up to your house. How powerful is it if I manage to give you a card that says, if anything goes wrong with this, or if you need anything else done, this is me. And you're going to get my name, and you're going to have my contact details, and I'm going to help you, no matter what it is. Now, British Gas can't do that. They can't guarantee that they're going to give you the next engineer that you had last time that knows your house and knows every room. But as an SME, you can do that. And it's very powerful for that relationship. And the second part to that is that any ideas you come up with can be rolled out really quickly and tested in a way that means you don't have to worry for someone to sign them off. If someone gives you a good idea, try it. See where it goes, see if it works. And some will work, some won't. But the important thing is that you can test it and get there first. So all I want to do is encourage you to have that sort of flexibility in the delivery to know when to adjust. And the final part of FAST is to cherish a short feedback loop. What I'm talking about here is that unlike in big corporations, most of you deal directly with the customer at the end of your experience. And if you don't, it's a very sort of shallow process for them to get in touch with you, speak to you, and give you that feedback on the service. Now, these sort of loop together because when you get that feedback, you know your best customers, you get that feedback, you go back to delivery and you start to roll out some of those things. Happens again, you get the feedback, you go back and you start to roll out those sort of feedback elements that you're hearing about. Can you imagine how many people someone like Compare the Market would have to get feedback from before they can go, actually, we're going to change the website from blue to green because so many people have said that it needs to happen. So guess what? It doesn't happen. People try customer feedback every now and again, but when you're an SME, you can do it on the fly, fast, flexible, and actually start to implement some of those changes. Okay, so the first thing is that you've got no bureaucracy. That's really what we're talking about here. But the tricky part is, how do you stop chasing that sort of low-hanging fruit that means we're all busy, but not necessarily getting the work that's actually making us profitable? Again, there's three elements to being focused and owning exactly what it is you do well. The first one is to get your positioning spot on and nailed. So can I get another show of hands if you've done any work on your positioning as a business? Okay, so we're about 60%. That's better than I get most of the time. So just mentally, work through these critical questions for me. The first one is answer it in your head. What do you do best? Think about your service, your sector, and what is it that you do that makes you stand out within your market? The second part is, who do you do it for? Who are your key customers that need that service? And the final part is, what do you do that can't be easily replicated? If you can answer these three questions, you're well on your way to getting your positioning right and understanding the core message that you're going to the market with. So is there any salespeople in the room? Right at the back. You're salespeople?
Yeah.
What do you do?
I have 5 companies.
Okay.
So I got a college, I got a production company, films, high budget films. I got an agency presenting ads across the world.
Fantastic.
Going through stocks and shares, and I'm opening a private jet.
Amazing. Right, I'm going to pick the easiest one of them. Your production company.
Correct.
So what do you do best with a production company?
Selling, networking, bring investors, make sure they get the return on investment for the projects and for low risk.
Fantastic. Who do you do it for?
For
Yeah.
company, me and my co-producer.
But in terms of who's your customer, what sectors, what?
What's the movie? Everyone is wrong.
Brilliant. What do you do that another production company can't?
Our unique selling point, I would say, is focus on horror, which is the most commercial point. And I would say our unique selling point is make sure it's innovative with AI
Okay.
and keeping the costs low to have a high return on investment. So that's why I say I can work with accountants to make sure you get your money back.
Okay. So the reason I ask those questions is because it takes a while to sort of get through that churn of what you're going through. So what I want to encourage each of you to do is take the answers to those 2 questions and try and encapsulate them in a core message. One thing that says, this is exactly what we do and who we do it for. So in your scenario, that core message might be, we're a video production company that specialise in helping businesses get a return on investment through their networking events. Now, I've just taken what you've said, and minus the horror part, because I didn't really get how that tied in. And as good as this speech is, I don't want it to be a horror show. But you're just capturing that core message. Now, it completely changes what you're actually going to market with. Because you can go out there and just say we're a video production company, or you can tell people in one sentence, this is what we do and this is who we do it for. The second part, which is always a bit of a struggle, is to document your ideal customers. So these are the people that you really want to be doing business with. I encourage all of you to be creating 3 tiers of customers. Your first is your A tier, so they're the perfect fit customers. If every customer could be this customer, you'd want them to be this. Doesn't always have to be revenue. Could be that they're within 5 miles of your premises. Could be that they only call you on weekdays between 9 and 5 and don't keep you up at weekends. Whatever they are, just document them down. The second one is a B fit, and sort of a good fit customer. They might not tick every box that your perfect customer does, but you need them to sort of keep the business going, because not everyone's going to be that perfect customer. And the C customers, your final ones, are sort of your acceptable customers. I will do work with them, but I'd really like to either turn them into B customers in the future, or I know that I'm doing it in the short term and they're not going to actually transition into that better value customer. Now, the reason I ask you to do this is because if someone inquires with you and they don't, look, I got a laser pen. If someone inquires with you and they don't fit into this category, you go, do they fit into this category? No. Do they fit into C? Now, if you feel like you're trying to force them into the C category, then it probably isn't there, and they're probably not the match for you. Now, I'm going to hook this back to my subject, is that enterprises can work with as many D to E to E to F customers as they need to, because they can swallow the cost and the profitability into the bottom line. You don't have that sort of ability to swallow that cost and profitability. If you take on too many D and E customers, all you're doing is making yourself busier and less profitable. So the first step is to actually just document them, get them down on paper. And the last part of that is that it helps you keep them front of mind when you're then going out into the market. We spoke about the messaging, but all your marketing and your sales material, if you haven't got this sorted, you're just sort of shouting into the void, hoping that the best people come back to you. When you really want it to be hyper targeted and saying, do you know what? I know your problems. I know what issues you're having day to day, because I've worked with your colleagues, I've worked with your customers, I've worked with your competitors even, and I understand your industry. Unless you document them all, you can't do that. And the final point, which I encourage everyone to do, is to prioritize value over volume. So with all SMEs, the issue is that you're limited on time until you've got a bigger workforce. So try to keep deepening relationships with those A customers and those B customers. Find more that match that ideal profile, rather than just chasing new customers all the time. Prioritize the value that you've already got. Upsell, cross-sell. And don't forget those customers that have been with you for the whole journey, because they're always going to be your warmest leads. And the final part of the 3S framework is fearless. It's easy for me to say this stuff, but when you're in the day-to-day, one of the hardest things is saying no to a new inquiry because they don't fit into a new customer profile. I want to give you the permission to be a bit bolder with what you're doing out there. And the first part of that is competing with corporates on everything except from price. So I use this mantra. Most of the time, big corporations cost less because they care less. I haven't yet had a client let me actually use that in their marketing, but the principle still stands, is that they don't really care about the customer at the end of it because they can swallow the cost into the bottom line, which I've spoken about before. Whereas to you, They might come back in 5 years' time and give you an even bigger sale. They might recommend their next door neighbour, who's another sale, and it all adds to your bottom line. So compete on things like services, local knowledge, where you stand in the community, things that bigger players just can't emulate. Be human as well. I mentioned this at the start. You've got a face, you've got a voice, put it out there to the market. A lot of us can be a bit camera shy, and we end up looking like one of those sort of true crime things where we're black figures behind a business. What we want to be saying is, look, I'm Glenn. I've been in this business for 10 years. I know your friend Joe, who's gone for coffee with me recently, and he told me I can help you. And I want to talk to you because I feel like I can help you. And if you don't want to do business with me now, here's a blog I write every now and again. If you ever have any questions, here's my number. That cannot be copied by bigger enterprises. So make sure you're just there in person, giving them direct contact. Share those leadership stories, and most of all, just make your business feel like it's approachable to every single person. And the final bit, which I touched on earlier as well, is adopt an abundance mentality. Most of us only need, I don't know, about 0.1% of the market share in order to thrive as SMEs. I get a bit fed up with people saying, oh, I'm never going to compete with this competitor because they've got a bigger budget. Well, you need a very small slice of the pie to increase your revenue by 10% this year, or to double your workforce in the next 5 years. You don't need to be capturing every single person that's out there. You just need to understand that the market is there to be won. So again, that's a mentality thing. And I just want to show you a quick case study where I've done this in person. I don't expect you all to be able to read that from far away, don't worry. Has anyone heard of Fluids Carpets? They're literally round the corner. So if you come out the centre, turn on the right, there's a big carpet shop opposite you. And we had a challenge last year where Carpetright, which you've probably all heard of, went into liquidation. And Tappy Carpets basically bought them out. Now we ended up in a scenario where Carpetright was gone, nobody knew where to get their carpets from, and Tappy were so aggressive trying to capture that market share. So I said, look, we know what we do well, and it's customer service above all else. So I said, how do we start to look at avoiding being overshadowed by these bigger names? So what do? At the start, we started to double down on what made us different. Our marketing campaign stopped being about competing about price and your fitters coming out to you and your e-commerce. If you buy your rug yourself instead of us fitting it, you get 10% off, that sort of thing. And we focused it all on personal service. Come into store, have a consultation with one of our sort of expert team, sit down with us for a coffee, and we'll talk to you about how we can carpet your whole house and the best underlay you need. I know, it's really exciting, isn't it? But it's all about showing genuine care for the customer's homes. We then started to roll out a blog. And unlike Tappy, where we were focusing on how do we get Carpetright into so many blogs that when people search Carpetright, they come to Tappy. No, what we did was we spoke to customers about what do you do if your Carpetright order was midway through before the company collapsed. And we gave them very simple formulaic advice on what to do. What's your next step? Again, it's about showing you care. Yeah, you get the keywords in, do that bit of SEO, but it's all about just showing that you're different to that brand. You actually have empathy and compassion with your customer. Now, this actually led to Tappy being so aggressive that they started bidding on Fluids Carpets as their sort of advertising keyword. And luckily, we were there first, and it became very expensive for them, and they had to bow out of the race. But with Carpetright going, we saw a 21% increase in web traffic for the year, and increased the customer rating from 4.5 to 4.9 online through Trustpilot and Checkatrade. So it just shows that the mentality of being fast and rolling out those new campaigns quickly, being focused and targeting sort of the homeowners and the empathy, the things that we knew would value service over price, and then being fearless and being brave in using the competitor's name in our marketing, something which they were very actually against doing in the first place. They didn't want to mention competitors, but it turned a potential threat into a very, very good year for sales and the best year yet for their actual digital presence. So I've talked at you for about half an hour there. Did anyone have any questions about any of this?
I wanted to ask you a bit more about gathering the feedback. So you did have some notes in there about methods for doing that, but can you recap on that?
Yeah, so, I mean, gathering feedback, the question was, do I have any notes on gathering feedback for everyone in the back? The methods to actually do it, most people think of things like SurveyMonkey and creating sort of rigorous sort of customer service experience. That's not really what I want to do. I want to encourage your teams or you to be asking the person at the end of the customer journey, how was your experience? What could I do better next time? That means you won't even consider a competitor. It's having that bravery to ask the question, whether it's, would you join me for a Zoom meeting for 10 minutes just to discuss how things went? Would you sit for coffee, or would you like to exchange emails? Just to build up that repertoire. One of the great things is ask them to rate their experience out of 10. I know it sounds simplistic, but they will always say it's either a 7 or an 8. But the next question is, okay, how do I take that 8 and how do I make it a 9? Because that's going to be more powerful to you than just saying, I think we did well on that job, and then never talking to the customer again. And obviously, if they give you a 5 or a 6, something's probably gone wrong, and this is your opportunity to fix it.
Now, it's tendency people like to find your customers instead to retain the ones there, which is easy to make revenue with the ones you already have before you try to get new ones.
Yeah.
But to keep the new ones, or the ones that is your top 8 ones, which I call the cherry on the top of the cake, because they can go anytime soon and then it affects your entire finance and cash flow if things go wrong. Would you say with AI, it will help you to be quicker so you don't lose a sale?
Yes. So, I mean, with the rollout of AI, I think you've got 2 elements to it. One is speed, which obviously you can tell from Fast, Focused and Fearless that speed is quite important. The other thing is what I touched on earlier, is doing something different that can't easily be replicated. It's one of the things you can do to sort of retain those clients is try and give them things like recommendations or referrals to other businesses that you know. So in your scenario, for example, you may know a lighting rig company. Now, if you can refer them in, you're not only strengthening your position with some partners, you're also saying, look, you can come through me. I'm going to save you the hassle of having to go to other companies. Once they do that, they start to enter your network. And it becomes much harder to leave you for anyone else, because they're not only leaving you, they're also leaving the possibility of talking to people that you've referred them to, possibly they've been working with for years down the line. You just want to make it so that you're ingrained in their business as possible. With AI, I think the advantage is that you can reflect and sort of rework these processes over and over again. So you can constantly be testing your own processes to make sure that they are what they are. But I don't want you to over rely on it, because what I'm talking about here really is human connection. Don't forget that everything comes down to people buying from other people.
Trust.
Yeah, trust. Exactly. Trust, empathy, compassion. They're much more powerful than any AI tool you can get. But yeah, definitely harness it. As promised, I've got a QR code here. This takes you to where I've published this ChatGPT prompt. On there, you'll also find a little bit more about us and some of the resources that we have. To tell you a bit more about us, Tomango, we're a brand, website and digital marketing agency. We specifically help people predominantly in business services, hospitality and retail, and grow their revenue, try to double their revenue in 3 to 5 years. Very succinct pitch there. And please, I hope you all found that really useful. And if you do have any other questions, feel free to chat to me at the end. Thank you very much, guys.